Scrabble is the world's most popular word game. It's also the best. That's probably why 30 million Scrabble games have been sold in a dozen different languages in over 90 countries around the world. I'm Gyles Brandreth. I love words and I love language, and that's why I love Scrabble, and why I happen to know that if all the Scrabble tiles ever produced were laid end to end, they'd stretch for an incredible 50,000 miles. Back in 1971, I launched the British National Scrabble Championships. Back in 1933, an American called Alfred Butts launched the game itself. He first called it Lexico, and although the game had letters and racks from the start, it began life without a board. Butts developed the game over several years, and it wasn't until 1949, and I was just one, that Scrabble, as we know it, first went on sale in the United States. J.W. Spear & Sons brought it to Britain in 1954, and the rest is history. And that's enough history. The aim of this video is to do exactly what it says in the title. Show you, step by step, how to play better Scrabble. Starting from the basics, we progress to some more advanced secrets of success. And to put all this into practice, there's a complete game that you can play along with at home. To help us, we have a Scrabble family of our very own who'll be demonstrating the various moves for us. Let me introduce them to you. Here they are, the happy foursome. Martin and Judy are the proud parents, and John and Tamsin are our younger players. Martin, what do you think is the secret of Scrabble's popularity?
Well, it's good fun. It's something we can all do together as a family. It's intellectually stimulating, and it's a challenge.
Do you find him intellectually stimulating? Oh, you probably do, but I bet you're going to wipe the board with him.
I see.
Oh, you certainly will after you've seen the video. Now, let me introduce you to the man who will be guiding us through the various stages of the game. Scrabble guru and a personal friend of mine, Darryl Francis.
Thank you, Gyles. Well, in this video, I'm going to be looking at three main sections. I'm going to start off by covering the basics to make sure that we all understand the rules of the game and how to actually score and use the squares on the board. Then I'm going to go on to some of my secrets of success, how to make the tiles work for you, how to get good scores from the tiles and the squares on the board. And then finally, we're going to end up looking at a real game from two of the family here in the studio with some commentary from me. I'm going to start by describing how the first player is selected and then actually look at the first player as well. Each of the four players in turn takes a tile from the bag and places them face upwards on the table, and the player who's picked the letter closest to the beginning of the alphabet, it'll be their turn to begin.
I've got a C.
Well, I've got an L. I've got a G.
No?
I've got the A.
Oh, well done, Judy. So
When you've selected the first player, all those four tiles go back in the bag, and the first player takes 7 tiles from the bag, puts them on his or her rack, and then we go clockwise round the table, each of the players making sure that they've got 7 tiles.
All right, let's see what I can do. Got it. To rain down on everybody.
rain.
In the end there, and I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's a double, isn't it? On the first, so it's 8.
That's 8. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, what we've actually seen Judy do is to play rain coming downwards with the end covering the centre pink square. But it could have been any of the letters covering that square. Equally, she could have played rain going horizontally across, again with the N or any other letter covering the central pink square. Okay, let's now look at subsequent moves. Each player in turn now has to add 1 or more letters to those that are already on the board and to join up with those that are there. And they can do this in a number of ways. For example, the next player could put 1 letter on the front of rain, turning it into drain. That's a perfectly valid move. Or they could put a letter on the end, turning rain into rainy. That's perfectly valid. Equally, they could put letters on the front and back ends at the same time and make brainy. That's a good move. Beyond that, they don't have to actually change the word rain. They could just use one of the letters that's in that word already. So, for example, they could do flat, coming across like that. That's a perfectly okay move. Or they could actually play a word that goes across the board and changes rain at the same time. So an example of that is edge. where the G goes on the front of rain and turns it into grain. And when they do that, they'd actually score points for both the words edge and grain. Other possibilities, they could actually come across with putting an S on the end of rain. They've turned that into a new word, so they'd now score for rains and cash. And finally, they could do this. They could come down with O double F, making two words, off and no, and again scoring points for both of those. Let's go and see what John actually does now.
O, T, I, N, N, G. Nothing. Oh no.
So it's 1, 2,
The key thing to notice about this move of John's is that not only has he made a 7-letter word coming down, but he's also made 4 horizontal words, or, tar, hi and in. And all 5 of those words contribute to his total score.
And 50? That's 79. That's fantastic.
Shall I write that down? 79.
No.
Well done, John.
He's done well, hasn't he,
Brilliant.
Johnson?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, it's my go now.
Rather than actually playing a word on the board, a player can choose to exchange some or all of his tiles. He might feel, for example, there's not a particularly useful scoring opportunity on the board, in which case he might decide to put back some of the not-so-useful tiles and to go for some better ones. Now, the way he does this is he takes the unwanted tiles off of his rack, he puts them face down on the table, and then takes the same number of new tiles out of the bag. Then the discarded ones go back in the bag. Now, after that, his turn is over. He doesn't get to play a word as well as exchanging tiles. The number of times that a player can change tiles in a game is unlimited, though in fact it is a fairly common rule to bar changes when there are less than 7 tiles left in the bag at the end of the game. As well as placing a word on the board or exchanging tiles, a player can decide to just sit tight and pass. He does this just by saying pass, and then the move goes to the next player. The reason that a player might want to pass his turn is that he hopes that one of the subsequent players will put a letter down that he'll then be able to use to his benefit on his next go. There are 2 blank tiles in the set of 100 tiles. They have no letter value or point value associated with them. And when a player gets one of these blanks, he can use it to represent any letter that he cares to nominate.
H, O, R, T, L. I'm using my blank as an A. D, chortled, and that makes doubled twice. 52.
52. Well done, Tamsin.
Well done, Tamsin.
Chortle, chortle. Excellent.
OK, let's take a look now at the premium squares and what they mean for the Scrabble player. Most of the squares on the board are coloured green, and we needn't really concern ourselves about those. But I want to talk about the light blue, the dark blue, the pink and the red ones, because these can in fact increase the score of either individual tiles that are placed on them or the whole words that are placed on them. So let's look at each of them in turn. Let's go for the light blue ones first, the double letter score squares. With this board set up, if a player was to put down the word hide, H-I-D-E, they'd actually score 4 points for the D, because it's covering a double letter score square. So 4 for the D, 5, 6, 10. 10 points in all for that word. Let's look now at a triple letter score square. Supposing a player put the word fly down, F-L-Y. They pick up 4 times 3, 12 points for the Y, and the 4 and the 1 for the F and the L. So that's a total of 17 points there. Let's look now at the double word score squares, the pink ones. Supposing a player put the word fend, F-E-N-D, down. Now that scores 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but the whole word is doubled, so that's actually 16 points that the player has scored. Now let's look at the triple word score squares. And to get to the one here, I need to actually put another word on the board. That's supposing a player had played draw. The W there now makes the triple word score square there accessible. So a player may now come along and, for example, do wolf, W-O-L-F. And the score for that is 4, 5, 6, 10, Whole word tripled, 30 points. Of course, if a word goes down that covers more than one of these premium squares at a time, then the values become cumulative. So, for example, if a word covered 2 pink squares, that's the double word score squares, then the value of the word would be doubled and doubled again, times 4 effectively. If a word went down that covered 2 of the red squares, the triple word score squares, the value of the word would be tripled and tripled again, so times 9, and that can be a very effective way of boosting scores. Another point to note is that when a premium square has been covered, it only has value for that move alone, and it subsequently has no value in the other moves. So, for example, in the wolf move that we saw over here, W-O-L-F, though the W actually covered a double letter score square, it didn't actually count in the play at wolf. And one last point to bear in mind is that if a premium square is used in 2 words at the same time, it does count in both of those. So, for example, if I was to play the word he and ETA, which are both valid Scrabble words, then the E is tripled in the vertical word and tripled in the horizontal word. So hopefully, with some of those principles set up, we can now see how the players actually make use of some of those points.
E, X, A, C, T, I, M, G. Beat that. Can I see the score?
That's fantastic.
Well, what is the score?
Ah, well, the score is... That's a... 19. That's a double letter score.
189.
Well done.
Well
Are you
done.
sure?
Yeah.
189.
189.
I want to make sure that's put down, please.
I'm putting it down.
Well, that's really good, Tamsin. Well done.
Okay, let's take a look now at the 50-point bonuses. The Scrabble rules say that if you play all 7 of your letters in one turn, you get a 50-point bonus in addition to the score for the word or words made. And that can boost your score quite dramatically. Let's look at how this works. Supposing I had the word soldier on my rack, and I managed to place it on the board here. Now, from that I score some points for soldier. I also score points by changing mountain into mountains, and I get a 50-point bonus. In fact, that adds up to 71 points for that move. So again, quite a good score. Of course, it may be that I don't have a 7-letter word on my rack, but by using those 7 letters and one of the letters already on the board, I can make a bonus. So let's, for example, look at the M of mountain. It may well be that I could make the word miseries. Misery scores 33 points by itself, but with that 50-point bonus added, that's 83 points, so that's really worth having. And in fact, you'll find that good Scrabble players typically tend to make 2, 3, even 4 bonus moves in a game, and that way they can dramatically uplift the scores that they're achieving. Well, why don't we take a look now at what Judy's going to do, because she's got some good letters on her rack there, and let's see if she can score well from them.
Aha. And I'm going to play my blank as an H.
Withdraw.
Oh, sure.
But that's not all. Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. A, L, S, withdrawals.
You've
How
used
about
all
that?
of your letters.
I know.
Judy's played as 7 letters there, around a 4-letter word already on the board, making an 11-letter word. Very impressive. We need to look briefly at allowable words and challenges. Now, the standard Scrabble rules state that a word isn't permitted if it begins with an initial capital letter, if it contains a hyphen or an apostrophe, or if it's just a prefix or a suffix. Otherwise, words will be allowed. Now, if a player wants to challenge the validity of a word, perhaps either he doesn't know the word or he thinks it's misspelt, he challenges it when it's played, in which case the players check a standard dictionary, for example, Chambers English Dictionary. If the word's there, fine, it stays on the board. If the word isn't there, then the word comes off the board and the player who plays it loses his turn.
Right.
Got a word. Zuai.
Zuai.
That's not a word.
No, I'm going to challenge that.
It is
Yeah.
a word.
Well, I'm going to look it up in the dictionary, because I don't think it is.
Well, go ahead then, but I'm sure it's a word.
Right, where are we? Zoo-eyes doesn't exist. Zooia exists.
That's
meaning...
what I meant to put, actually. Is that the other...
No, you can't
No,
change it. No,
let me
not after
change
it's been
it.
challenged. Because once it's been challenged, you've got to forfeit the go. You can't
Are you
then...
serious?
Yes. So it's John's go now. Sorry. We're terribly disappointed about it, but...
I've got one.
Rather than relying on a standard English dictionary, which may or may not be up to date, you might find it useful to have a copy of Official Scrabble Words. Now, this is a publication which lists all the allowable Scrabble words in strict alphabetical order, approximately 140,000 words. There's also an electronic book version of this, where you literally key in a word and the electronic book will tell you whether the word is or isn't allowed. That's called the Official Scrabble Words Finder. Also based on Official Scrabble Words, there is another publication called Official Scrabble Lists, which presents all sorts of useful lists for Scrabble players. 2-letter words, 4-letter words, words with Zs in, and so on. Let's take a quick look now at scoring. It's a good idea if each of the players keeps track of their own scores and those of their opponents. And the best way to do this is to actually record the score for each move, add it into a running total, and to get a new running total. And then this way, if there are any disagreements over the scores at the end of the game, players can actually check the individual scores and the running totals. On the back of the score sheet is a diagram of the Scrabble board, so that if you need to leave the game partway through and come back to it, you can record the game and start again tomorrow. We also need to take a quick look at scoring at the end of the game. Now, very occasionally a game comes to an end when in fact no players can make any further moves. They're absolutely stymied and can't go on. Now, in that situation, what happens is each player's score is decreased by the value of the tiles on his or her rack. Now, as I say, that doesn't happen very often. What tends to happen more often is the fact that one player has gone out, he's used up all of his tiles, and there are none left in the bag for him to take.
That's yam, and that's on the triple letter score. So that makes 16, and that's the last of my letters.
Okay, Tamsin's gone out, so what that means is that each of the 3 other players, their scores will be decreased by the value of the tiles on their racks. So Martin will actually lose 7 points, John will lose 12 points, and Judy also will lose 7 points. Tamsin gains by the value of all those points added together. 7, add 12, add 7, and gets 26 points. So that demonstrates the value of going out before your opponents, particularly when there's more than one of them.
With the basics now clear in your mind, Darryl will show you how to improve your game by revealing some of his tips in our next section, The Secrets of Success.
Let's take a look now at the high and medium value tiles. There are 15 tiles in the set, worth 4 or more points. And though there are only 10 tiles displayed here, that's because there's 2 Fs, 2 Hs, 2 Vs, 2 Ws and 2 Ys. Medium value letters, there are 15 of those in a set, worth 2 and 3 points. Only 6 displayed here, but again, multiple numbers of those in a set. Now when you get tiles such as these, several tiles such as these, on your rack at the same time, try and actually find words that use these letters together. Words like magic, junk, avow, kiss. I mean, that's where you're actually using up those letters and getting good scores from them at the same time. Certainly if you have those sorts of letters on your rack, you should try and use them fairly quickly as well. I mean, after all, it's no good hanging on to them. Those tiles are only going to work for you once you actually use them on the board and you start scoring with them. There's no point in hanging on to the J or the K for 3 or 4 moves. Let's take a look now at what Tamsin may be able to do with the letters that she's got on her rack. She could do weft, W-E-F-T, which uses up her W and her F and scores 14 points. Or, perhaps rather than playing the W, she might play the H and Y as well, for hefty, which scores 22 points. Or, she may play white, W-H-I-T-E, which is worth 22 points. And that, of course, not only gets rid of the W and the H, it also makes use of the double word score square under the W. So let's take a look now at what Tamsin's actually going to do with those letters.
White. Whitey. Is that a word? Oh, it is. All right. Yes, of course it is. How obvious. Shall we make the score up? 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 and 4 makes 15, and it's a double word score, so 2 15s of 30.
As I mentioned earlier, the premium squares can affect the values of the tiles and the words played across them, but what you really need to do is to ensure that the medium and high value letters actually fall on those squares and you get sort of the combined effects. So let's take a look at the letters that Martin's got on his rack and see some of the moves that he could possibly play. He could, for example, play fake, F-A-K-E, where he's using the F and the K. He's also getting the word across a double word score square, and that picks up a very healthy 27 points. Alternatively, he might play faker further down the board, and also making the two-letter word FY at the same time. Now there he's used his F and his K, but the F is actually tripled in both directions, in the horizontal word and in the vertical word, and that picks up a very useful 38 points. Alternatively, he might do frisky, coming across here. Again, the K is on the dark blue square, the F is on a dark blue square, so both tripled, and picking up a total of 34 points for that move. Well, those are some of the possible moves that Martin could make, but let's have a look and see what he really does.
Right, I think I've got a word. Freaks, which I'm... No, I won't put down freaks, John. I'll change it to a better word. So I put down freaks, I might upset you. So I'm going to put an S there, which doubles up whitey, and then put across here I, K, A, F, which makes fake ears, so that's doubles up one and doubles up one. So it is 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, doubled makes
26.
Good. And 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, 16 makes 32, and 26 makes 58, Jude.
58.
Oh, I'm pleased with that. That's jolly good. It's the kind of move that Darryl would have made.
What to do with a Q? Well, most people, when they get a Q on their rack, automatically assume that they're going to need a U, and that's probably true in most, but not all cases. And there's 4 U's in a set, so when you get the Q on your rack, check to see how many U's have already gone. If there are 3 or 4 already played, then there's not a lot of point in hanging on to the Q, hoping to pick a U out. On the other hand, if there's only 1 U on the board, then it's not unreasonable to hang on to the Q, hoping to pick the U up and then scoring well from it. However, there are a few words beloved of Scrabble players that use a Q and don't have a U in them. There's, for example, cat, Q-A-T, which you will see lots of times on expert Scrabblers boards, and there's also caddy, Q-A-D-I. Very useful. They come up more frequently than all the other Q words combined, I would think. You should also be prepared to exchange the Q. If you've got the Q on your rack, there are no U's in sight, and you can't play cat or caddy, then put the Q back, perhaps along with 3 other letters as well, and get some good letters out of the bag. Of course, you should also be careful about getting stuck with the Q close to the end of the game. If there's only maybe 9 or 10 tiles left in the bag, take that opportunity to change the Q, dump it on your opponent, let him get stuck with it. Because don't forget, at the end of the game, if you've still got the Q on your rack and your opponent goes out, then your score will go down by the value of the Q, and his will go up.
Right. I've got a Q, and I'm determined to play it.
You got the U?
Mm-hmm. Aha, yes. I put the Q up there. U O T E, quote. So that's Q on the double letter score. That's 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, doubled, makes 48. Plus 5 makes 53. Oh, I'm pleased with that. That's got rid of that anyway. Now it's your turn, Tamsin.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the rules state that if you manage to play all 7 of your letters in one go, you get a 50-point bonus, and that's in addition to the normal score for the word or words that you played. Now, experienced players strive to get 2, 3, maybe even 4 bonus plays in a game, and that significantly boosts their scores. But bonus plays don't just happen by accident. Good players tend to work for them. And the way they do this is they tend to hang on to letters such as these. They try to ensure that they don't have duplicates of those. They're trying to ensure that they've maybe got 2 or 3 vowels and maybe 4 or 5 consonants. And those are the sorts of combinations that help to generate bonuses. Certainly looking for bonuses, they need to be on the lookout for common letter groupings, ones such as these. In striving for bonus plays, you mustn't work at them to the exclusion of everything else. For the moves in between, you really ought to be picking up 20, 25 points. That's certainly going to help to boost your score when you do get the bonuses. After all, if all you play is bonuses intermingle with a few 4 and 5 point moves, you'll certainly find that your opponent is running ahead of you. Let's take a look at what might be possible. I've got 3 vowels, I've got 4 consonants, all single pointers, nice easy letters to use. I could, for example, play retinas, R-E-T-I-N-A-S, and I've also made 2 short words coming down. That's worth 73 points. Alternatively, if I wanted to score a couple more points, I could play nastier up here. And at the same time, I've changed hem into them. So those are the sorts of groups of letters that make it really quite easy to find bonuses and to slot them in somewhere on the board.
I've got one. Car.
Car? That's not a word, is it?
It is. It's an Egyptian word.
Is it?
I thought it was Japanese though. No.
Egyptian? How do you know it's an Egyptian word?
Did a project on Egyptians at school.
Did you really? Oh. And that's right, is it? Car? Something to do with an Egyptian religion?
Okay, well, we've seen John play the 2-letter word K-A there. Obviously, he wasn't able to play a bonus word. It looks like he's trying to make an opportunity for later on in the game. Let's see if he or one of the others manages to use it. The 2 blank tiles have no points value by themselves, but they are the 2 most valuable tiles in the set. If you see a blank on your rack, you can be certain that you're not far away from a 50-point bonus, assuming you do the right things. Let's take a look at a rack that I've got here with a blank on and see what I could do with it. I could play investor using my blank as a V, which scores 68 points. Alternatively, I could play it slightly higher up the board and I could make retinues, which is also 68 points, using my blank there as an E. Or I could score even more by coming further down the board and playing inserts, I-N-S, E-R-T, and using my blank as an S. That's worth 73 points, and there you'll see I've made the 3-letter word cat, K-A-T, which is a variant of Q-A-T, which we heard about earlier. The other thing to bear in mind, though, is that with a blank, that even though you may be not far off of a 50-point bonus scoring possibility, if you can actually get the 50 points without making a bonus, but by using the blank, then by all means, do it. OK, well, let's see what Tamsin's going to do. She's got a blank, she's got a Z, but not a particularly good group of letters otherwise. Let's see what she makes of them.
Blank as a U, I, Z, quiz, and that's tripled, so that makes 63.
Well, that was a very good play there from Tamsin. She's managed to use her blank and her Z and her second I for a very good 63 points. Very good use of the blank there. Of course, using the blank for only 15 or 20 points is really not to be recommended. You've really got to make that blank score a lot more than that. Except, of course, when you're very close to the end of the game, perhaps there's just not an opportunity to get a 50-point bonus down. then I really think you do have to be prepared to use that blank for 15 or maybe even less points. Two-letter words are overwhelmingly important to the Scrabble player, not for the scores that they achieve for themselves, but because of the scores from the words formed at the same time. Now, two-letter words aren't just restricted to everyday words such as these. Official Scrabble words contains well over 100 two-letter words, with lots of oddities such as these. Regular players will know all of these words, they'll know what they mean, and they'll know which ones take an S to form a plural or not. As well as being useful for helping you make high-scoring moves, two-letter words can also be useful if you just want to dump two letters from your rack and put a small two-letter word somewhere out of the way on the board. Okay, well, from these letters here, I could play PA on the board, making the word PAY, but also making the two-letter words PI and AR. That scores 18 points. Alternatively, I could play PAY there, making pay down, making way across, and two-letter words across, op and tar. That's a very healthy 35 points. I could also play Briar, B-R-I-A-R, also making the two-letter word buy, for 28 points. Well, let's now see what Judy does with her letters. I think she's probably got a word on her rack, but will she be able to get it in anywhere?
Right. Pi, low, N, as, and, D, E, D, pleaded. That's good, isn't it? Who's done my letter?
Well done, well
I
done.
made lots of words.
What does, excuse me, what does an N mean?
It's something to do with printing.
Really? You sure about that?
Absolutely, yes. Quite sure.
Shall I totally
Now, though Judy saw the word pleaded on her rack, she had to find a place to put it on that board, and as it turns out, that was the only place that it would go, so she had to spot the 4 two-letter words to get pleaded down. So the words she's made are pi, low, N and as, all allowable two-letter words, as well as pleaded, which picks up a 50-point bonus as well.
That's very good indeed, well done.
I thought so.
A hook is a word that's already on the board, just waiting for another word to latch onto it. Let me show you what I mean. We've got the word am already on the board here, AM, but if I added the word grip coming across here, like that, I've changed am into amp, and I've made grip at the same time. So I get the score for both of those words. So am was providing a hook for grip. Well, let's take a look now at what Martin could do with the same letters.
I've got a word, but I'm not sure. Ah, yes, on the double word score, P-R-O-B-I-T, probity, and then down here a me, which means friendly, and cat, which is a word, and is some Far Eastern word, and I can't quite remember what it is. So probity, a me, and cat.
Don't forget that the simplest form of a hook is simply the addition of an S to an already existing word. So for example, on the board I've got here, we've already got fog down, and I could add grabs across here, because fog offers a nice hook for the S. Don't get complacent close to the end of the game. Many games, which end only perhaps 20 or 30 points apart, can be won or lost on those last few moves. Do bear in mind that when a player goes out, his score is going to be boosted by the values of the tiles of all his opponents, and each of those opponents, their scores will be reduced by the value of the tiles on their own racks. Well, let's see what Judy does now in this game, which is pretty close to its end. Right, well, we can see that Judy's got words like reading and grained on her rack, and I think there are probably 2 or 3 other obscurer anagrams of those. Now the O of op offers a nice hook, so she's coming down with something beginning GR, so it's probably grained, and she's going to make do as well. So she'll be picking up a 50-point bonus for that as well, and going out.
That's grained. and do. And I'm out.
You're out.
Well, normally at the end of a game, it's best to go out in as few moves as possible to try and catch your opponents with as many letters as possible. To go out in 2 moves rather than 3, or to go out in 1 move, as Judy has done, rather than 2 moves. And Judy did it in style.
We're now going to show you a complete game played by Judy and Martin that illustrates all the points that have been covered. If you'd like to play along on your boards at home, we'll give you 15 seconds clear thinking time to plan your own move before Darryl explains the options and tactics available, and then you'll see each move played. If you'd like more time at home to think about your moves, then pause the tape before the 15-second countdown is over. Why don't you watch the first few moves to see what we mean before you decide if you need the extra time or not. And good luck.
Okay, well, Judy takes a letter from the bag. Martin takes a letter from the bag.
J.
Oh, I've got a B. So it's my first go.
Letters both back in the bag. Martin takes 7 tiles from the bag, puts them face down on the table. That way, if there's any dispute about 8 or 9 or however many coming out of the bag, they can put them back in the bag and there's no arguing over any of the letters being seen. Judy does the same, 7 tiles face down, and then they're ready to go. And it's Martin's first turn. Okay, so let's have a look at what Martin's got in his rack. He's got B, C, H, and 4 vowels there, so he ought to score fairly well off of these. Well, Martin's got 3 tiles there worth 3 or more points, the B, the C and the H, so he ought to be looking to use at least a couple of those. He's also got 2 A's. It's always useful to try and get rid of any duplicate vowels. So a word that springs to mind is beach. I think it's really a question of where is he going to place it on the board. Now, I suspect it may be best to place it to the left of the board with the B on a double letter score square, rather than to the right with the H on the double letter score square. Let's see where Martin goes though. Ah. Yes, he's decided to place the H on the double letter score square, maximising his points.
Beach. And that scores 32.
Okay.
Well, with letters like V and an X on a rack, Jude is probably quite attracted to playing them around the E of beach, playing Vex for 25 points. Better still than that, though, would be if she could play a word underneath beach, parallel to it, ending in X, something like tax. Then that way she'd be scoring off of tax and X, EX. On the other hand, if she'd actually been looking for her endings, ATION, then with Vex in front of that, she's got an 8-letter word, vexation, which would pick her up over 80 points. Let's see if she spotted it, though. Well, she's got Vox on her rack, and that's what she's playing along with bow and X. I think that's probably the best move available, apart from the missed bonus of vexation.
Bow, X.
Oh, well done. Right, so I make that, what do you make it, 46?
Okay.
Well done. Right. Now it's my go.
Well, with a C and a V on his rack, Martin really ought to be thinking about trying to play those off, and at least 1, if not 2 of his vowels. So words like cave, cove and voice spring to mind. You might think about havoc coming down from the H of beach. On the other hand, he could put conv in front of ex to make convex. But the problem with that is that it would leave him holding 3 vowels, which is not a good idea. Of course, convex suggests the possibility of concave around the sea of beach. Now that would cover 2 double word score squares and would pick up well over 50 points. Now it looks like Martin's coming down there, and it is going to be concave.
Concave, that's a double-double. So it's 14, 28, 56.
Now alternatively, he could have played vaccine in the same place for the same score.
So you're up to 88 now.
Yep.
Right.
There we are. To you.
Right, well Judy's got the Q on her rack there, but no U. Now that's not too much to bother about because she has got the 3 letters QAT, which is a word well known to many Scrabble players. So perhaps what she should do is to hang on to QAT for a subsequent move, and in the meantime try and do something else. Now she should spot that she's got the ING grouping there, and she could turn EX into exiting for 16 points. But certainly a lot better than that is to put the ING onto the end of beach. That would cover the triple word score square in the middle of the rightmost column of the board. So beaching would pick up 48 points, a score well worth having.
I thought you might. I wanted to use it, but I couldn't use it.
Beaching.
Oh, well done.
16 tripled. 48.
Yes, 48.
94.
So that makes you 94.
Okay.
Well, Martin will obviously be looking to score well with the Z there, but also trying to use up at least one, if not a couple of his O's. So he's probably thinking in terms of trying to slot in words like Zo, Z-O, and Zoo somewhere. Now, is there a spare E for ooze, maybe? Or a spare Y for woozy? He might think about using the I of beaching for zip, but that still leaves him with those 3 O's. But perhaps the most appealing place on the board that he's looking at is the triple letter score square to the left of the O in concave. Now, if he could put the Z there and then come down with another word, he'd actually be scoring the Z in 2 directions. So Zoa, Z-O-A, is the word that fits the bill.
And
Zoa, Z-O-A, and Z-O, well known to
Zoa.
Scrabblers.
And Zo, yes, and on.
Okay.
And I make that 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
65.
Right, well, Martin's used his Z, but he's only used one of his 3 O's, so he's still got a bit of an O problem, and he'll have to try and solve that on the next move or two.
153?
153.
153.
Okay.
Well, Judy's still got that Q on her rack. She hasn't picked up a U, but what she's actually got is 2 words on her rack, cat and caddy, that use the Q without the U. Now, there's nowhere to put cat on the board, but there are a couple of places that she could play caddy. Now, the key to scoring well on this one is to know that concave can turn into concaved. But Judy's going to use the I of beaching that's already there on the board.
That one up my sleeve.
Quaddy.
Caddy.
Caddy,
Actually.
is it?
Yeah. Not worth a lot, though.
How many did you get for that?
16.
16?
Yeah.
Agree with you there. So that gives you a running total of 110? Right. What am I going to do?
Well, Martin has got words like dopey, wood and woody on his rack. What he ought to be doing is to try and get rid of at least 2 of the D, P, W, Y consonants and 1 of his duplicate O's.
Oh.
Now the word zo already on the ball provides a neat hook for the strange word DZO, zo. Martin could come down with a word ending in D, for example pod or wood. On the other hand, if Martin knew that concave took a D, concaved, then he could play his woody across onto a double word score square there for 48 points. Wonder what he's going to do.
Yes.
What's that?
Yes, you made. That's wood. And my favourite Scrabble word, which makes 25?
Yep, 25. Nice one.
The triple word score square in the middle of the top row of the board looks quite appealing. Perhaps Judy could come down with toad, which will be quite useful for 31 points. But on the other hand, if she's actually been juggling her letters around, she should have spotted the ATION ending. Now that used in conjunction with the first O of wood would give her a bonus play, donation, for 70 points. If she spotted donation, then perhaps she also ought to be spotting donating onto the G of beaching. That's an even higher score because it uses the triple word score square in the top right hand corner of the board. Also, she could play anointed onto concave, making concaved.
What?
But she's playing donating.
Oh, I'm not going to. Oh,
I hope so.
no.
I think it's going to reach. I don't know it is.
Oh no, oh no.
Donating.
Oh, well done.
Good one, eh?
Well, I don't know whether it's well done. Yes, it is. So what's that? You've used all your letters.
Yep.
So is that 11 treble making 33?
Plus 50. 83.
83. 83. You're beating me now. You've got 193 and I've only got 178.
Well, Martin may well be eyeing that triple word score square at the top of the board there in the middle. If he could come down and connect up with the W and the O of wood, then he could perhaps get 20-30 points there. Possibilities are words like PIA and MNA, which give him 20 points. Not brilliant, though. Ideally, he ought to be looking to play off at least a couple of MPY and maybe a duplicate A. The double word score square to the left of the O of donating could be useful. Perhaps he could come down there with a 2 or 3 letter word. You could try yam or yap, which score over 30 points. But the triple letter score square between the A and I look quite appealing as well. If he can put his M in there,
And in there,
that's very nice, yes.
an A there, and a P there, and I think you'll find that that adds up to 40.
Now Martin's really demonstrated a good knowledge of the three-letter words there. Very nice.
It's brilliant, isn't
I'm
it?
very happy for you.
I think it's fantastic.
Very, very
So
happy.
40.
218?
218? Yep.
Well, Judy's got 6 vowels there, of which 3 are E's and 2 are I's. Now, she either needs to use up as many of those as possible, or possibly to think about exchanging. If she's going to make a move, she ought to consider words like lieu, L-I-E-U, which could slot down parallel to the W-O of wood. That only picks up 13 points though, and still leaves her with E-E-I on her rack. Not good. No other moves that score better than that, quite honestly.
Exchange.
Oh, can't you go?
Not really. I exchange these 6. Would you pass the bag over, please?
Yep, there you are.
Right, well, Judy's changed 6 there. Probably quite a reasonable exchange, though maybe she could have held back the EL and just changed 5 of them. I wouldn't really quibble with what she's done.
5, 6. Let's pop these ones back in.
Okay, do you want to put those back in, the others in the bag?
Okay.
So that's it then. So nothing for you. Bad luck.
Absolutely nothing.
Ah, right. Aha. That's something I want to put down.
Well, I suspect that Martin spotted the word praying on his rack. If he has, he's probably also spotted there's nowhere for it to go down on the board. Now, a spare R or a spare T somewhere on the board might enable him to get down words like parrying or partying. But again, no spare R, spare T's. Spare E might be useful for repaying. Now, there is an E at the end of concave, but unfortunately it's too far over, so repaying won't go down either. So what's he going to do? Well, he could just put his Y on the end of BO, making boy, because Martin may also know that boy can turn into boyg, B-O-Y-G, which means he could potentially come up with a 7-letter word on his next turn, ending in ing. That only scores 8 points though. If I was Martin, I'd be looking to take that triple word score square at the top of the board there in the middle, coming down onto the WO. It's been available for a while.
So,
Someone ought to take it.
yes.
Yes, he's going to.
I think what we will do is go here.
Yes, much better to play a word there now, get 50 plus points for it, rather than angling for a bonus which may only score him 70 or so in a move or two's time.
That's 53.
53.
8, 9, 10.
Okay, 53. What's your running total now?
53. I make my running total 271. Yep. Sorry.
That's fine.
Judy's exchange of 6 letters on a previous turn has produced a very welcome blank. Using the blank as an N, she may spot the word integer, but she's going to have problems fitting that in on the board. She can't add to concave and make it concaver, because there isn't such a word. So what else might she do? Well, if she could find a spare P, possibly petering or prestige. The P of pray is in the wrong position though, so that's no good. What else can she do? Well, using the R in pray, can she find an 8-letter word ending in that R? shouldn't take her too much time to spot register using her blank as an S, but that then opens up the 2 triple word score squares on the left hand side of the board. Now if Martin takes one of those, he may pick up 30 or 40 points, but if he picks up both of them by playing an 8-letter word, then he could potentially pick up 150 points, which would certainly open up quite a substantial lead for Martin. I wonder what she's going to do.
Oh, crumbs. I don't like the look of this.
Yes, it looks as if she's decided to play register using her blank as an S and
I
take
think
the
I have to
chance
use
that
my
Martin's
blank.
not going to be able to cover the 2 red squares in one turn.
T.
Yes, 70 points there.
Well done. Well,
Make that-
sort of well done. So that's 1,
70?
2, 3, 4, 5.
I think you'll find it's
Oh,
70.
that's a triple, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, that's 20 and 50 for using your lot, so that's 70.
Why don't you just trust me when you say 70?
Well, I like to check these things, you know. So that's 263,
63.
which means that I'm, well, we're virtually equal, aren't we?
Goodish letters on Martin's rack, but the 2 I's and 4 vowels in total don't easily make for a bonus. Now Martin might consider using that R in the top left hand corner to cover the red square there. He could play Origin for 27 points, or perhaps a Rating for 27 points. On the other hand, he might decide to not touch either of those red squares and give himself a chance of a triple on his next move, in which case what should he be looking to get rid of? Either the GI somewhere or OI somewhere.
Make some.
Yes, he's going to play OI in the top right hand corner, leaving himself with a good chance of covering both those red squares
11?
on his next
11?
move.
11 it is.
Excuse me, 11. So that's
288.
282. 282, I make that.
282. You're right.
Thank you.
It's not on the top.
Judy's got 5 vowels here, so she ought to use this turn to play off some of them, and yet also try and score well with the J. Now, using the I of register, she could come down with jibe, J-I-B-E, for 42 points. Unfortunately, this still leaves her holding 4 vowels, A-E-I-U. Doesn't really address her vowel problem. Looking at that triple letter score square up above the W of wood, she could come down there with the word jab, J-A-B, making a couple of crosswords for 42 points, but this would still leave her with vowel problems. In the same position, she could come down with J-E-U, one of those Scrabbler's favourite 3-letter words, 38 points, leaving her with A-B-E-I. Now there are no other moves anywhere on the board coming close to those sorts of scores, 38, 40, 42 points. So I think Judy really ought to opt for one of these moves and accept that she's still likely to have excess vowels on her rack at the next turn.
Oh, well, the lads.
Oh, well, that is.
What you are.
Yup.
It's your go.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Having spotted the ing ending, Martin might wonder if walting and wattling are words. Well, they're not. You might search for a spare Z somewhere on the board in the hope of playing waltzing, but again, no spare Z. If he looks for a bonus play across the E, the G, the I, the S, the T of register, He won't find one, nor across the E of concave. His attention really ought to be concentrating on that R, that initial R of register. Can he find an 8-letter word which covers both the red squares? The W wasn't a wonderful tile to pick up. Another I instead of the W would have given him trailing. How about 8-letter words ending in AL, or ANT, or ING? Those are all possibilities that Martin ought to be considering. I think once he lights on the ING ending, he ought to find it fairly easy to spot an appropriate 8-letter word which does cover both the red squares. Wonder if he's going to spot it.
Which you won't like very much here.
Just
this is what it
one
is. T R A W L I N G, which is all my letters, and it is
Lots.
It is lots. It is 16 times triple, which is 144, plus 50 for using all my letters, which is 194.
Martin now has a very significant lead over Judy. 476 to Martin, 305 to Judy. Will Judy be able to narrow the gap? Although Judy didn't pick up any more vowels after her last turn, she's still got too many vowels, 4 on her rack. She ought to be trying to score well from the K and solving her excess vowel problem at the same time. She ought to spot words such as ilk, irk, like, lurk on her rack, but she won't find anywhere particularly profitable to play them. Can she find a word beginning with the K that starts just above the I of register? That'd score over 20 points for her. She could play weak, using the W of trawling. That's 22 points, but would leave her with ILRU, not a particularly good combination. What she really ought to be doing is looking to move as many of those tiles off of her rack onto the board. And I think she could opt for sulkier, using the blank S of register. By using up 6 of her tiles in this way, Judy significantly increases her chances of picking up either the second blank or any of the 4 remaining S's. And these are the sort of tiles she's going to need to pick up to bridge the gap between her score and Martin's.
L U R and K on the double word lurk across
What's
and
this word
concave it down like that makes 30.
What's this?
Concava.
Concava.
Yeah. Any problem with that?
Concava. Well, concave. How do you mean concave? No, I don't. I challenge concava. I think concava.
Well, look it up then.
Right, I'll look it up in OSW. Concava.
But it's somebody who makes things concave, isn't it?
No. Well, we'll look it up anyway and see. Consign.
Is it in there?
No, it isn't. Concave is.
Have you looked?
I have looked, and it is definitely not in here.
Well, that's a successful challenge there by Martin, so Judy's going to have to remove her tiles from the board and miss her turn. Even if concava had been allowed, although Judy would have scored well, she wasn't doing anything to address her vowel problems. It wasn't the best move available to her.
That's a little
I did my
naught
best.
for you. Yeah, it's a good try. Well done. But,
Not as good as your score.
no.
Apart from the F and the Y, Martin has the makings of a bonus word here. Now he's got 2 possibilities. He could either just play off the F and the Y somewhere and hope to pick up 2 good letters to make a bonus word next time round, or maybe, because he's so far in the lead now, that he just hopes to maximise his score on this turn and not bother about looking for bonuses. Let's think what he could do. If he wants to just maximise his score, he could play feint, F-E-I-N-T, parallel to the ing of trawling. Now that's worth 36 points. Or he could go for nifty, N-I-F-T-Y, and E-N using the E of concave. That's 32 points. Now the problem with that last move is that it puts the Y on the bottom row, positioned between two red squares again. And Judy's likely to score well from one or both of them. No, that's too risky. I think the triple letter score square just to the right of the eye of trawling offers Martin a good place to play his F and his Y. If he comes down with the two-letter word FY, which is what it looks like he's going to do, he's going to pick up 30 plus points.
Which is, that's a triple letter, so that's 12, 13, 13, 21, 34.
I wanted to go there.
Oh, I like. What do you make my running total then?
Do you want me to do everything for you?
Yes, please.
Ends in a naught?
Yeah. 510?
Yep.
Right.
Oh, no, actually, yes. Yes, I do. 510.
One.
One of the two-letter words just played by Martin was NY. Now, will either Martin or Judy know that that offers a hook for either an E or an S, because both NYE and NYS are allowable Scrabble words. Now, what about Judy's letters? Well, she's got the same tiles as last time because of the challenge against her, so pretty much the same considerations apply. She could play weak onto the W of trawling, which is worth 22 points, but that leaves her with ILRU, a difficult combination. Really, she ought to be looking to play sulkier. It was her best move last time, and it's her best move this time.
Blank as an S.
Well, it is an S, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Just in case you've forgotten.
No, dear.
Sulk, but more than that. Sulkier.
Oh, dear.
Grand score of 20?
20? Yeah.
Perhaps I'll get some decent letters this time.
And you're 325?
So they say.
Right.
There you go. 325.
Well, I've not got the best letters in the world here.
Well, Martin's pickup of two U's can't have been very welcome. He certainly doesn't need U's. After all, the Q went several moves ago. He needs to solve his vowel problems, as well as getting a reasonable score. Now, one word familiar to experienced Scrabble players, which uses up 4 vowels, is E-U-O-I. But does Martin know it? Although there are several places on the ball to put this word, none of them scores particularly well. So perhaps Martin should be looking to do something better than that even. The highest scoring move available to him is only 17 points. Now that's by playing 1, O-N-E, parallel to the K-I-E of sulkier. Even this would still leave him with the 2 U's. In view of there not being any particularly good scoring moves, I think Martin might well consider exchanging. Certainly both the U's, and maybe the O as well. And that's what he's doing.
2, 3.
There's a nil point for you.
Nil point.
Over to me. Okay.
Yep.
Well, Judy's got 3 anagrams using these letters, but will she know any of them? If she does, will she spot them? And if she does, will she be able to fit them in anywhere on the board? What are the anagrams? Well, there's métiers, M-E-T-I-E-R-S, tremies, T-R-E-M-I-E-S, and triseme, T-R-I-S-E-M. None of them exactly everyday words, but all of them will fit in somewhere. For example, Judy could do métiers parallel to the ER of sulkia, 70 plus points. She could do tremies parallel to the IER of sulkia, for 77 points. Or she could even put an S on the end of concave, for concaves, and play triseme coming across. All pretty exotic moves, all quite possible for the experienced Scrabble player, but will Judy be able to do any of them? If she misses them, what's she likely to do? She may just play off 2 or 3 of her tiles, hoping for a bonus on our next turn. And she's going in the top left-hand corner, which suggests she's just going to play 2 tiles.
Wait.
What's eam?
It's an old Scottish word for granddaddy.
Is it?
Grandpa. Yes,
Right.
certainly. Yes, it makes 14.
14?
Yep.
Yep.
339,
339 and I'm still 510.
I'm catching up.
You are.
Martin changed 3 tiles last time and has now picked up AHS, quite a good pickup. The letters A, E, I, N, S, T combine with most of the other letters of the alphabet to form allowable 7-letter words. Only 4 exceptions though, H, Q, X and Y, so unfortunately Martin hasn't got a 7-letter word on his rack. There's only one place to put an 8-letter word, and that's around the E of concave, but there isn't one of those either. Martin has got 2 choices then. Either just play the H somewhere for a few points, hoping to pick up a good letter next time, or forget about the bonus and just maximise his score. To maximise his score,
9.
he should play heist and concaves. But he's gone for the 9-point move by just dumping the H at the top there.
Okay,
Yep.
around she goes.
Very nice letters here on Judy's rack. Would you believe there are 4 anagrams of these letters? One of them ends in ER, stifler. 2 of them end in ERS, filters and lifters. And the 4th is the everyday word trifles. Now, if Judy knows that concave can take an S, then she could play any of filters, lifters and trifles in that position. If she knows that NY, already on the board, can take an S hook, then she could play stifler. That's the highest scoring move available to her. Of course, the one thing that she won't do is to play concaver. She's already tried that earlier and she's been successfully challenged by Martin. So I think if I was Judy, I'd be looking to come down from the NY with stifler for 81 points. But if she's prepared to play concaves, then she could come across with lifters, filters or trifles. And of those, I think trifles is probably the best because it gets the F on a double letter score square.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You did, when you were checking the OS story, you did say concaves would be alright, didn't you?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was one of the words. You're not going to use it, are you?
I think so, and not only that, but a mere trifle on the end of it. Making
Oh, well done.
trifles and concaves. You don't need to check it, do you?
No,
Fine.
well done. So what's that? That's 29? Plus, you've used all your letters?
79.
79, well
Yeah.
done. And that's a running total of 418.
Yes.
Oh, well done. Very good.
I was quite pleased with that. I didn't think I was going to come back.
Now, I've still got these rather nasty letters.
Well, Martin played an H on his last go and he's now picked up a U. There are two words that can be made from those letters. There's the everyday word aunties and there's a slightly more obscure word, sinuate. Now both of these will go down on the board. Let's assume that Martin spots aunties. Where can he put it? If he played it above and parallel to trifles, you'd also make the two-letter words it, and sigh. Or if he played it parallel but underneath trifles, he'd make the two-letter words tie, re and is. Now they're both worth 70 plus points. Will he spot either of those positions? Or will he despair and do something else? Possibly he hasn't seen aunties, in which case he might just be looking to get rid of 2 or 3 letters to try and create an easy opening for a bonus move on his next play. Possibly a 4-letter word coming down from any of the letters of trifles.
I'm going to use this triple word score down.
And he's coming down from the F.
And put down fawn. Alright. That's 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 7s, 21.
I'll go along with that.
So he's retained the very useful EIST, hoping for an 8-letter bonus around them on a later play. Judy's got 5 vowels here, and that's really rather lopsided. She's got an S on her rack, that could be quite useful, and the second blank is still to come. I think she stands a reasonable chance of getting a bonus, but she does need to play off some of those excess vowels. Words that she ought to be thinking about are EUOI, which I mentioned earlier, and there is another one, Ourie, O-U-R-I-E. She might be able to fit both of those in somewhere and go for a bonus next time round using that S.
And me, my old favourite. And a wee.
Yes, notice how she's managed to get rid of her 2 vowels there by a good knowledge of 3-letter words. 2 of them hardly everyday words.
That's a double word, so
Yeah, 24.
do you make that 24?
I do. 24.
I make that 24 as well. And that gives you a running total of 442. Well done.
That was quite good.
Well, Martin has got similar vowel problems to Judy. He's got 5 vowels, 3 of them E's. I think Martin's chances of a late bonus are rapidly disappearing. He's got an S, and the second blank is still to come, although Judy could have it. What Martin ought to be trying to do is to play off 2 of his duplicate E's, or maybe EU, or even EEU. I think the best place to put down a couple of E's is just G, J-E-E-E, in the top right-hand corner. That's only worth 10 points. But it doesn't spoil that NY hook, remember, for NYE or NYS. He may need that to come down with a bonus word in his next move or 2.
Well, there we go. E.
And unfortunately, he's playing his 2 E's off there, which I think is going to be a bit of a blocking move.
E by gum.
10 points.
Right, let me study it more carefully.
Well, Judy's just picked up an S and a blank, and that's a very fortunate pick-up of tiles at this late stage in the game. On her rack, Judy has got numerous 7-letter words. For example, arouses, sauces, courses, serious, sourest. There's probably over a couple of dozen there. But unfortunately, given the state of the board, there's absolutely nowhere to play a 7-letter word. Judy's going to have to look for an 8-letter possibility, using a letter already on the board. She'll have to consider the potential positions around the U of fawn, around the N of fawn, or perhaps beginning with the N of beaching. She could play resounds, surgeons or tonsures using the N of fawn, but none of these covers any double or triple word score squares. She could use the N of beaching to come down with neurosis or neuroses, both of which cover a double word score square. Or perhaps best of all, she could use the N of fawn to make neurosis or neuroses, covering the triple word score square in that bottom right hand corner.
Yeah.
Well worth it for 74 points.
N-E.
And that looks like what she's going to do.
O, a double letter, S, and I'm playing my blank as an I, on the triple neurosis.
Neuroses. So what's that?
It's worth lots
That's
and lots.
24 and 50.
50 because I used all the tiles. 74.
74, making your running total 516. Yep.
516. That's a good
Well
one.
done. Excellent. I do think it's excellent. I really wish I'd put it down.
No.
I wish I'd had the blank, actually. Oh, well.
Martin should be able to spot that he's got the word dilutes on his rack, but there's nowhere for any 7-letter words to fit in on this board. And there aren't any anagrams of dilutes either, not that they would help him. How about an 8-letter word? There's only one position on this board where you could feasibly get an 8-letter word in, and that's around the U of fawn. But there aren't any 8-letter words using dilutes plus a U. Now Martin can also see that Judy has only got 2 tiles left on her rack, so she's likely to go out on her next move, which means Martin ought to really be using up as many of his tiles as he can. But he also wants a reasonable score from them. I think Martin's best move is to try and play something like duties, parallel to the TRI of trifles. Picks up 22 points and leaves him with just a single L. He might consider the possibility of tiled and concavist for 28 points, but he ought to be able to work out that concavist wouldn't be allowed, since concaver was disallowed earlier. So no, I think his best play is duties.
D.
I'm not quite sure what he's doing here.
L. U. T.
Aha.
Just
E.
do it.
So
No,
that's
hang
6,
on. Just
7,
no.
8.
I don't know what you're using the blank as, but it's meant as an I.
E.
I. Neurosis.
Oh, it
It's
isn't, is it?
singular. Yes.
Oh, I thought it was an E.
Well, you should have listened.
Oh, sorry.
Off the board. You don't mind.
Sure about that, are you?
Absolutely certain. I said it quite clearly when I put it down, actually.
Yes, once Judy's designated the blank as an I, Martin isn't allowed to redesignate it as another letter.
Nothing at all for you.
So Martin takes all his letters off the board and misses his turn.
D.
Yes.
Even though Martin's just forfeited his last turn by trying to play dilute, Judy's only got the 2 letters R and T left on her rack, and I don't think she's going to be able to score well enough from those to actually overtake Martin's score. What can she do with an R and a T? Well, in the top right hand corner she could try trod for just 6 points. Across the E of concaves she could play ret for 5 points. Or using the eye of trifles, she could come down with the word writ, one of those obscure three-letter words. But there really isn't much better than that. There's lots of three-letter words that she can play, but all for 5, 6, 7 points. I think she's not going to do much better than that. And it looks like writ for 7.
Writ.
So what's that, 7? And that's you out, is it?
And out.
7.
So Judy's gone out. She's used up all her tiles.
3. Now
That
I've
brings
got
her score to 5, 2, 3.
3.
But Martin's caught with 8 points left on his rack, so his score comes down from 550 to 542. And Judy's goes up from 523 to 531. Very high scoring game, over 500 points to both players. Good win for Martin, but Judy did very well to catch up, particularly after Martin's trawling.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's quite good. Do you have a cup of tea now? Then?
Yeah, let's have a cup of tea and something to eat.
The aim of this video has been to demonstrate how much enjoyment there is in playing Scrabble, and I hope we've started you down that path. If you'd like to play more Scrabble, there are a number of clubs all over the country that meet for social and competitive Scrabble. If you'd like more details, then please write to this address. Scrabble Club Coordinator, 42 Eltharon Road, London, SW6 4BW. And that's it. So thanks to our Scrabble family, and from Darryl Francis and from me, thank you for watching, and enjoy your Scrabble. Goodbye.
Ah, mais passé 11 heures, il n'y en a plus.
I can order you one.
Hey. Ne?
Yok ya.
Bizde bulunmuyor efendim. Türk lokumu.
Después de la siesta.
Scrabble, the world's leading word game.
You could have put down proud. It's much nicer.
We're only using words that grown-ups don't like.
Aha.
Yes!
Junior Scrabble from Spears.